Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a question and an observation from our friend Doug Sawyer. Doug says, I don't know if you saw, but the primary duty of those who oversee boxing is to protect the fighters. Yes, Doug, that is true. He says they failed Miranda Adkins on Friday night. Adkins is a 42-year-old who took up boxing at 39 and had only 5 fights, all of them against opponents with less experience than she had. I didn't see this fight, but I did hear a little bit about it. He says 4 were making their pro debuts. Her opponent on the Virgil Ortiz Jr. Samuel Vargas card was Senecia Estrada, a talented seasoned boxer coming off a victory over Olympian Marlon Esparza. The result was as predictable as it was gruesome. Estrada rendered Atkins unconscious in 7 seconds. How did this happen? How was a novice like Atkins allowed into the ring to face a seasoned pro like Estrada? That was from the publication Boxing Junkie, I believe, from this past Friday, July 25th, 2020. All right, Doug. Yeah. How did this happen, right? So you mentioned the primary duty of boxing commissions, referees, officials, etc. is to protect the fighters. So why do we see such disparities like this happen? Now, I'm going to tell you from personal experience, this is largely a gender issue that women face much more often than men in combat sports. I've coached a number of female athletes, a number of female fighters over the years, and it can be extremely difficult to find an evenly matched fight for a woman. It is difficult enough to find somebody in your own weight class for a woman, for the simple reason that there are just not that many women lining up to get in a cage or get in a boxing ring and fight compared to their male counterparts. And so I've seen this sort of thing happen. I've seen it happen a number of times. Women who are very experienced, seasoned professionals, champions, up against rank amateurs. Girls or women who simply did not belong in a fight with them. Which is unfortunate, because you can take a very inexperienced amateur person, put them up against somebody of comparable skill level, right? And you can have a good fight that way. But when you have a high-level pro against a wimp, an inexperienced wimp, you're going to see a one-sided beatdown. And unfortunately, for women's combat sports, this exception is often, too often made, where we have the one-sided beatdown. Yeah, man, I've seen it too often. Too often, man. So what do we do about it? Well, we could make rules and regulations and make it more difficult for women to get fights. Or we could do something radical such as encourage more women to get into combat sports. A lot of people asked me after Zhang Weili won the UFC title, Chinese fighter Zhang Weili, if that had had any impact on my business, running an MMA gym, running MMA classes here in China. And the honest answer to that is no, I really haven't noticed any difference in public interest in mixed martial arts since Zhang Weili won that fight. As far as training, as far as getting off your butt and training, it doesn't seem like she's motivated any of the folks here in Shanghai to come to my gym in particular. But you know who did, in a big way? Ronda Rousey. Yesterday, a young woman came to my MMA class for the first time. She'd never trained before, but she was very excited to do it. And I asked her if she'd seen the sport of MMA. She shook her head and said, yes, I've seen it. I don't know much about it, but I've seen it. I watched some UFC fights. And I said, do you have a favorite fighter? And she said, yes, Ronda Rousey. And she went on to explain that because she watched Ronda Rousey because of her charisma, it pulled her in, it drew her in a very compelling way. And this is a young Chinese woman talking. And made her want to get out there and train. And, it's been years since Ronda was the it girl in MMA, in women's MMA. But even back then, it was the same thing. Women came in to train because they saw something special there. They saw this enigmatic charisma from this young woman. Some quality that they lacked that they wanted to emulate. Not just a woman who won fights, but something incalculable that she possessed that they wanted to have. And they wanted to pursue that through mixed martial arts training. And Zhang Weili, fantastic fighter. Fantastic fighter. But so far, that thing that Ronda had that is still bringing Chinese fighters to the gym to train, Chinese women to the gym to train. Unfortunately, Zhang does not have it. It's one thing to be a champion. It's one thing to win fights. It's a different thing entirely to be a beloved champion. That's why a lot of fighters go out there and they try to be the heel. Because it's hard to be the face. It's hard to be the beloved champion. It's hard to be this big draw that people want to be like in some way, shape, or form. And so it's easier to be the bad guy. It's profitable to be the bad guy. Ronda herself tried to do this for a while. Until the public kind of put her up on a pedestal. No, you're better than that. So, man, how do we get more women into combat sports is the real question. Because until we have a reasonable amount of women in combat sports, we're going to see mismatches. Like the one you're talking about. Like this unfortunate happenstance that you reported on in the boxing world. So if you're watching this, and you're interested in martial arts training, you're interested in MMA, and you're a woman, yeah, get out there and train. Get out there and train. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't. Thanks for watching.